I don't know how, the season seemed to slip by so fast, but we are already approaching the mid-season finale. Throughout the entire build-up to this moment, we've got teasers after teaser, hyping us up for this exact point.
This is it.
Truly, this is it. This battle has split the world we know of Vikings in half. We have Bjorn and Harald on one side with the Scandinavian forces, Ivar and Hvitserk on the other side with the Rus, and as we saw in episode 9, it's becoming a religious divide as well. Back in England, it was the Norse world that was invading their religion upon the Christians, and this time it's a reverse of that. We saw the English kingdoms completely unequipped and ready to fight this larger force that came out of nowhere with a different culture, with different set of ideas, and they didn't know how to respond. They were already pretty busy trying to deal with their internal political struggles, let alone this large existential threat that was coming for them. And so very much like the writers have done lots before, they've made this a mirror of past events, reflecting this pattern of how the world works. But in this episode, we'll finally get a resolution to this divide. We'll see the winners and the losers and what the world will look like after they've finished. I'm not only excited to see this battle and all the epic plans and fighting, and that it's going to be a fantastic episode just with that alone, but we're also going to see where the fates of the different characters will be at, where they're going to go for part B of the season, and how the entire series is going to close up.
I will defeat you. I will win. The gods are with me. You are wrong.
At the end of episode 9, we saw Oleg say that he's going to crush not only Bjorn Ironside and Harald Finehare, but their gods as well. He said this army would cause the end of paganism, the end of the Norse gods. Ever since Ivar met Oleg, he's been flirting with the ideas of the Norse gods, his roots as the Rus from Sweden, so perhaps Ivar was lulled into this expectation that he wanted to reclaim his Norse roots and the pagan gods that the Rus used to follow. However, it seems very much the case that's not what he wants to do. He wants to crush their culture, their gods, and truly dominate the land. We already know quite clearly through the conversations we've been getting with emissaries of Prince Dur that Ivar intends to overthrow Oleg. But it very much seems he's willing to use him to get revenge on his brothers and reclaim his kingdom first. But it may become clear to Ivar that he doesn't have the time to dilly-dilly around and really let Oleg do what he wants, because otherwise his gods may be squashed before he even gets to overthrow him. Because of Harald and Bjorn's huge histories and the betrayals they've gone through, they both really hate each other right now, but they're able to work through that problem to defend their nation and region as a whole and defend their gods. So it wouldn't be much of a stretch to think that Ivar could overcome his hatred for his brothers, for his ideas of revenge, to save his gods too. Now we see in this conversation between Ivar and Bjorn on the beach that Bjorn has clearly placed himself as the defender of the Norse god. But of course, Ivar isn't going to himself be a cog in someone else's plan. He's going to take things in his own direction. He rejects the premise of Bjorn being the savior of the Norse gods. He has his own plans, his own ideas to defend what he cares about. So Bjorn's going to continue to have this warped understanding of what's going on, thinking that Ivar is the main antagonist, when really he's going to work just as hard in his own way and his own strategies to ensure the Scandinavian world survives. Now from these shots we can tell that the episode is going to be jam-packed full of action, it's going to look beautiful. However, they continue to put this singular shot in the trailers, in the teasers, in this preview that I don't know why. It seems very much that this battle is happening in a park with like bench seats and some toilet rolls on top. When the first trailers came out and we saw this shot, people were like laughing about how this is Vikings' version of the Game of Thrones Starbucks cup moment. But for some reason they keep putting it in the trailers, so I don't know if they haven't noticed it's a mistake or it's not supposed to be a mistake. I don't know, under Harald's New Kingdom they may have initiated some park recreation activities, you know? Expand the horizons of what his government's supposed to do. And who said that Vikings don't need toilet paper as well?
The gods abandoned you a long time ago, my brother. There's no way you can win.
Now we've had a bit of discussion going backwards and forwards about what this beach scene between Ivar and Bjorn really is. I tend to lean towards the idea that this didn't actually happen as a real event, but rather is Vikings' own way of expressing them having some dialogue, some kind of conversation from afar about what they're thinking. Some kind of out-of-body experience type thing. We see how Ivar's dialogue speaks to Bjorn's inner fears of being abandoned by the gods. And who can blame him with all the things that have gone wrong in his life, with everything that's kind of falling down around him? It very much could feel like he has been abandoned. And it also seems that Ivar truly believes that the Rus also have an overwhelming force that the Scandinavian world can't stop. So Bjorn and Harald will truly be the underdogs of this battle, even with the advantages of being on land with all the traps and all the preparations, they still seem to be at a disadvantage. So that makes it so much more interesting to see what the aftermath of this battle will look like. Now personally, I see Oleg as the gatekeeper to a lot of change that needs to happen for the story to smoothly move into part B. He's been a really fun and great addition to the season, one of my favourite characters throughout it, but he very much seems like a one-shot type of character. He's been built up as this half-crazy, really cool bad guy that we want to see get taken down, but we enjoy him on screen anyway. Now of course, he's leading this army, he's in the fray, we see him fighting Gunhild, so there's a strong possibility of him dying in battle, but I don't think that'd be quite as satisfying as other interesting ways they could kill him off. We've seen this kind of relationship between Ivar get built up really well, so if he killed him off that'd be interesting, but far more likely I could see Igor being the final person that takes him down. Ivar has planted the idea over and over again that Oleg is the single person standing in the way between Igor and all of his dreams and desires. So there could be some really interesting ways that Vikings kind of weaves that fate into the story. Maybe Oleg survives his big battle and all these crazy opponents just to get killed in the back by some tiny kid after he thinks he's won. And just for fun, as he's dying, Igor can like lean down into his ear and just bark at him. Or maybe some other kind of poetic justice that kind of brings the story full circle. And if Oleg does die, it unlocks so much for the story. Prince Dur will take the reins of the Rus with Igor at his side and be a friend to Ivar. And then Ivar can leverage his successful campaign in Scandinavia and his connection to Prince Dur to gain an army and head to England where his true fate and the big conflict between him and Alfred in Part B will take place. And since Victor's fate has kind of been paired to Ivar, he'll probably go along with him, and we'll see both of those sons of Ragnar's fighting in England yet again. Or at least that's the direction I really hope the show would go in. But that still leaves the fates of characters like Harald, Bjorn, and everyone on the Viking side up in the air. Harald has technically achieved his dream of becoming king of all Norway, making him kind of untied from the tethers of fate. So either he has quite a glorious death where they kind of kill him off in this fight, defending his nation he finally got control of. Or they use this battle as a proving ground for him to truly start his real realm. And then there's Bjorn, who seems like a beaten down dog who's stripped of his purpose and his confidence. But there are some possible routes for him being a king, being a renewed man after this conflict. Perhaps the show decides to go down him being the king of Sweden kind of route, or maybe they have some other plan for him entirely. It's going to be a really interesting episode with a lot of potential ways Vikings can take it. We see Gunhild fighting Oleg, so maybe she'll be in peril after her heartbreak with Bjorn. A very tragic way for her story to end, but it could happen. We could see another opportunity for Eric to prove himself not only to Bjorn, but people like Harald who despise him for his past. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fates of different characters in this big conflict, how you think the entire world will be shaped by it, and what will happen in Part B. It's going to be a truly fun episode to watch, and it's going to have so many important ramifications for how this entire series will close up. So tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash it with a like, and if you haven't already joined in on the fun, you can subscribe to the channel as well. Skål!